Choosing where to live is just as important as choosing the house itself. But a lot of buyers end up deciding based on a gut feeling or a reputation instead of the real information. So today, let's talk about how to research any area objectively using public data instead of guesswork, so that you can make the decision that is right for you. Why gut feeling and reputation are risky. Gut feeling and reputation are really just secondhand opinions, they're not facts. What feels right to one person might be totally wrong for someone else. And reputation can be a bit outdated or just not accurate anymore. I always want my clients looking for real data instead of a feeling, because a feeling can't tell you what your commute is actually going to be like. Now, my job as an agent isn't to tell you where to live. It is to point you toward the tools that will let you figure that out for yourself. That means showing you where to find school ratings or crime data, tax records, and things like that. So you're making a decision with real information instead of my personal take on a place. The biggest mistake I see is assuming that you'll love or hate a thing based on hearsay. A home near downtown might be desirable for some, but noisy and disruptive for others. Or you may move to an area with lots of nature and trails, but the cafe closes super early and there's no social scene. You want a place that fits your personality, not someone else's. And skipping the research and going with a feeling from driving through one time can also be a mistake. Any area can look completely different at different times of the day. Or the school district lines might not match what someone would assume. Doing a little bit of homework up front can save you a lot of regret later. Figuring out your own must-haves. Before looking at any areas, think through your actual daily life. What is your commute going to be like? Do you need to be close to family? Do you want some walkability, or are you fine with a longer drive for most places? Or to have more space, You've got to think about what got you looking for a new home in the first place and the things that you enjoy. So write out your top priorities and then rank them in order of importance, and then decide which 1, 2, or 3 are actually must-haves. If you don't separate them out by level of importance, you could end up passing on a lot of great homes because of something that wasn't even a deal breaker. If you thought that a basement was a deal breaker, but then you fall in love with a house that doesn't have one, might it be maybe a little bit lower on the priority list than you thought. So writing a list out before you start to tour homes can save you and your agent a lot of time and keep you focused on your actual goal. If you don't write it out first, your priorities can shift, from house to house based on whatever you just saw, and that can become confusing fast. So having a list written down helps make you go back to that every time that you're doing the showing. And it'll keep you staying anchored in what actually matters to you and not just what impressed you that day. I also like the idea of ranking each home you visit on a scale from 1 to 10. This will also probably feature your priorities without you even realizing it. Why an agent can't tell you if an area is safe. Fair housing law is pretty clear on this. Agents are not able to characterize an area for a buyer. And that includes anything that touches on safety. It's not about being difficult. It is that steering someone toward or away from an area, even with good intention, isn't allowed. And honestly, it does protect buyers too, since you deserve to make that call based on real data, not one person's opinion. There are public crime data sites, local police department resources where you can look up actual numbers for any address that you were considering. So go directly to those sources rather than relying on someone else's read on a place. Whether that data becomes a deal breaker or just one factor among many really depends on the person. For some buyers, it's a hard line. For others, it's just one more factor they're weighing against everything else, like price or commute. The important part is looking at the real numbers before deciding how much weight to give it. Schools and boundaries. Even without kids, school ratings, tie pretty close to the resale value down the road. If you ever sell, buyers with families are going to be looking at that same information. So it's worth you understanding now and not just when you're getting ready to move again. You can go straight to the school district's own boundary maps and use sites like Great Schools for ratings. Boundaries can be surprisingly specific, and Yeah, sometimes one street is completely different in the district as far as the street right next to it. So don't assume, but actually look it up for the exact address. School district lines don't always match what people were expecting, and that can catch people off guard. Two homes that look basically identical and sit close together can be zoned for entirely different schools. So this is one of those things that it is worth double checking instead of guessing. Testing your commute the right way. A Sunday's afternoon drive tells you almost nothing about what your actual weekday commute will feel like. My own commute used to fluctuate between 20 minutes to 50 or more depending on the traffic patterns. Traffic changes completely once you add in rush hour or you add in snow. So it is worth using a map or a map app to check the average drive times at different times of day. Besides researching it that way, you can also drive it during the actual time you're planning to every day, ideally doing that more than once. Try it out during a normal weekday morning and again in the evening, since that's the real test, not a quiet weekend drive. And beyond commute, think about what you'd actually use every week. Grocery store, gym, coffee, whatever fits your routine. It's less about what sounds nice on paper and more about what you're generally going to use once you're living there. Property taxes and HOA fees. Property taxes can vary quite a bit, even between areas that are close together, since the rates are set locally. The actual numbers are public record, so you can look up what a specific property is currently being taxed rather than guessing based on the area. The HOA fees usually cover things like shared landscaping, community amenities, and sometimes exterior maintenance depending on the property type. Before buying in, ask what exactly the fee covers, how often it's gone up in the past, and whether there are any planned special assessments coming. Those costs can get overlooked more often than not. Buyers are so focused on the purchase price and the mortgage payment that these extra monthly costs sometimes don't come up until much later in the process. And by then, it can catch someone off guard. Reading the market demand. A few signs worth looking at are how many offers homes are getting, how quickly they're going under contract, and how close to sale price it's ending up to the listing price. All of that is public information you can track yourself. If homes are sitting on the market for a long time, that tells a different story than homes going under contract in a few days. And if sale prices are consistently coming in close or even above the listing price, that's a sign of real competition. Both are useful data points before deciding how to approach an offer later. Why long-term appreciation matters. Even a starter home is still an investment. So it is worth looking into the home values in that area and how they have trended over the past several years. It doesn't mean predicting the future market, just having a general sense of whether the values have been moving up or staying flat over time. Do the research yourself using real data along with your own personal preferences. Don't rely on someone else's opinion or feeling from one drive-by. Schools, crime data, taxes, commute, all of it is available for you to look up directly. It is a lot to look into, but you don't have to do it all in one sitting. Start with your must-haves and then work through the data piece by piece. Being informed is what makes you feel confident when you're moving forward instead of guessing and hoping it works out. If you want help knowing where to look, reach out anytime. No pressure, just information. If this was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.